My name is Chris Bolson. I'm a technical architect here at Stone Ridge. I've been working here for about 1 year in Business Central, Telemetry, Power Platform, and Azure. Anything technical is what I like to specialize in. Prior to working at Stone Ridge, I spent 12 years at Microsoft working with GP and Business Central. I've been with Business Central since it became a SaaS product, back when it was Project Madeira. Prior to that, I was 5 years as a Microsoft vendor with Excel and Office Project Server. And altogether, I've spent 20 plus years supporting everything Microsoft. On the objectives for today, we'll talk about what is Business Central Telemetry, how can we use telemetry, the deployment and costs of telemetry, what next, and some resource links. So what is telemetry? Telemetry is just a fancy word for usage of data. If you've ever wondered how your users are utilizing Business Central, telemetry may provide the answers to you. It's not the black box of data that you have absolutely no insights into, which a lot of people think when they move to the cloud or a SaaS product, that they can't see what's happening with their environment. So Business Central emits telemetry data for various activities and operations on your environment. There are different areas of telemetry that different types of users may find useful depending on their roles at the company. Monitoring telemetry gives you a look at the activities and general health of your environment. You can diagnose problems and analyze operations that affect performance. For us at Stone Ridge specifically, I would say performance troubleshooting is one of the most common things we'll use your telemetry for, along with error troubleshooting and unknown changes to the system. So did somebody make a change to something? You don't know. You got to ask around. No more of that. You can just look at telemetry and know immediately. Did somebody make a change? And privacy is built into telemetry. So no business specific data or identifiable information is included in telemetry. We don't see specific user information, i.e. your employees or your information. We don't see customer names. We don't see PO numbers, etc. None of that data is in telemetry. It's always scrubbed out so that none of that information is shared externally. How can we use telemetry? So there are 3 main tools that we can use to look at or consume your telemetry. One is Custo Query, and I'll pull that up here real quick. Custo Query, think of it like using like SQL query. You write a query at the top and you just get a look at raw data. This is probably not the most user-friendly. This is a little more technical. It's probably not what you're going to dive right into if you're getting started with telemetry, but it can be very useful if you know what you're doing and what you're looking for. Then there's Azure Data Explorer. Azure Data Explorer is this. You can build dashboards based on those Custo queries and be presented with charts and graphs or preset reports of data. I don't have a tenant ID or an environment name selected here, so none of these reports are going to show anything, but just to give you an idea of the different dashboards you could set up. And all of these reports or KPIs are based on queries behind the scenes. So they're just preset, ready to rock. You put in your tenant ID and your environment name, and you can start looking at fancy charts and graphs. And then the last, and I think easiest, most useful thing to get started with would be Power BI. And it's the easiest and quickest way to get into telemetry because Microsoft provides an out-of-the-box Power BI app with a bunch of reports that's ready to go. And that is broken into 4 areas: usage, errors, performance, and administration. And let me pull that up and show you that. So usage, errors, performance, administration, and we're going to look at this with demo data, sample data. All of these, so in the usage section, we're going to find reports based on how your Business Central environment is being used. Do you want to see a daily active user, weekly active user, monthly active user? How many users are signing into your environment in a day or a week or a month? Clients, how are users accessing your environment? Are they accessing it with Edge or Chrome, from a desktop, from a phone, from a tablet? What operating system are they using? Various people might find this information useful. Various people may not. Application areas, what application areas are being used in your environment or being used the most? Page views. What pages are users looking at the most? Let's say you're a project manager and you need to do user acceptance testing. You have a day that everyone's supposed to hit a specific page for testing. Did that happen? You don't need to wonder. You can see in telemetry whether that happened or not. Queries, reports, what reports are being run the most and how often? Errors. You have an error dashboard here that you can see how many errors are happening in your environment and in what areas they're happening. User login errors, error dialogues. These are errors, the dialogue that the end user sees when they are presented with an error. Web service errors, license errors, tasks. You can jump to any one of these. You can see user login errors. You can see company does not exist. It'll give you a failure reason. Permission errors if they're occurring. The sample data doesn't have any. Error messages. If an error message is presented, then you can see the AL code or the stack trace and where that error is coming from. This can be useful for troubleshooting. There's a boatload of error reports here that you can get into. We don't have time. So performance. This is another big one that I like to use. There's a lot of different performance things that you can look at here. Long-running SQL queries. If a user comes to you and says, the system is slow. Okay. Again, the black box that you don't have any insight into how this system is running. Well, we can come here and look for long-running SQL queries. We can see which extension or code unit is firing off those long-running SQL traces, SQL queries. Database lock timeouts. When those happen, again, those are difficult to troubleshoot. You can come into telemetry and find those and see which code was affected, who was affected by the lock, and who was holding the lock. Where did it come from? Long-running AL methods. Again, maybe you just installed a new extension and performance went bad. Is that extension the cause or not? You can come in here and figure out if there are long-running AL methods coming from that extension. Incoming web service calls. How many web service calls are going into and out of your environment? Do you know? Telemetry can tell you. And last but not least, administration. You can look at update planning. Again, there's no data here, but what version are you on? What is there an update available? When is it scheduled for? All changes to the environment. Extension changes is a big one that I use. Did an update get installed last night? You come in the morning and something's not working. It was working yesterday. It's not working today. What happened? What changed? You can come in here and see Microsoft pushed a hotfix last night. There was an extension that got updated last night. It helps you diagnose quickly where you should spend your time to investigate. And it can really lower the time to getting to a solution. Okay, we don't have tons of time. I'm trying to cram a lot in here in my 15 minutes. So let's move on. Deployment. Deployment is as simple as 1, 2, 3. It sounds like I'm oversimplifying this, and I suppose I am a little bit, but number one, you set up App Insights. This is done in Azure. It's pretty easy to do. It's basically just setting up a place to ingest and store telemetry data. Number two, enable telemetry in BC. App Insights, once you set it up, will give you a key. You go plug that key into Business Central, and it just starts working. It starts dumping telemetry in there. And number three, deploy the Power BI app that I just showed you. You deploy that and you connect it again to that App Insights key. And all you need is one person with a Power BI Pro license to get that app. And you can start using that app and looking at your telemetry data. Costs. Costs are calculated based on the amount of telemetry you ingest and how long you store the data. The default's 90 days, plenty of telemetry data. And maybe you're collecting telemetry on one environment or multiple environments. That'll affect the cost. Most customers are going to be able to run telemetry for under $10 a month without any cost controls. If you want to control your costs, we can set up data collection rules, which can bring down the costs quite a bit. You can filter out unneeded telemetry signals, only collect telemetry on production. You don't need them for your sandboxes, whatever you may be. You can bring down the costs quite a bit, and it's not that much to begin with. And then one Power BI Pro license. Last I checked, that's $10 a month. So the costs are minimal. What next? If you're interested and you want to look at this some more, just remember that one link, aka.ms/BC telemetry. Excuse me. That is the landing page for Business Central Telemetry. That'll have the links to everything and all the information you could ever need about Business Central Telemetry. If you want to get started with Business Central Telemetry and you want a little more help, reach out to us. Talk to your client success manager or open a support case. Ask for me by name, Chris Bolson. You're more than likely going to get connected to me regardless. If you're asking about Business Central Telemetry and you're coming to Stone Ridge, I will be your guy. Or just do nothing. Just know that Stone Ridge is collecting your production telemetry. We're collecting it for nearly every one of our Business Central customers. There's no privacy data concerns there because there's no information that shouldn't be getting out in telemetry. It's all technical. And we use that telemetry to troubleshoot support cases that you have with us. Here are some more resources you can use. Just the aka.ms/BC telemetry link is the one you need to know. Go there. It has a link to these other two if you're really interested in learning more. And just want to say thank you.